Tony here with MotionTony.com, and in today's video I'm going to show you my process for animating this piece of artwork here. Basically, I was on Instagram. I ran into this account called virtual_Sam. Check it out in the description. Link is below, and I was looking through their work. I found this and I was like, wow, I really need to animate that. So I brought it to life through animation using Adobe After Effects. This is what it looks like. And essentially in this video I'm going to show you my process, just my general process for bringing this piece of artwork to life through animation. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. Probably the easiest part of this animation is animating the saucer coming in on its horizontal axis, on the X axis, on the X position. So the first thing you'll see me do is separate out the dimensions. That way we have two different keyframe elements for the X position and Y position. And then I'm going to animate the saucer coming in from the left side of the screen onto the middle portion of the screen. And I'll be using the graph editor here, specifically the value portion of the graph editor. That way I can visualize and sort of see what's happening on the screen. So I found that the graph editor really allows you to take control over your animations once you sort of understand how it works. So I learned specifically how to use this graph editor. One day I was like, I need to just learn it, and basically I learned on the schoolofmotion.com. I'll leave a link in the description to that specific article, but basically watching that video changed my life animation wise, and it sort of taught me how to take control over the graph editor and create animations basically in my head. So I'm sort of using the graph editor here to polish off the animation. So the saucer actually goes up and down a little bit, like this hovering effect. So I can animate the Y position going up and down, and then I add an expression to the Y position. As you can see, I'm copying it here from the original animation, but the expression here is just a loop out cycle expression. And essentially what that expression does is it's like coding, right? And basically it's telling the Y position to basically repeat going up and down. So as you can see, I added to the animation, and now we sort of have the saucer come in. It hovers up and down, and I don't have to keyframe each up and down motion because of that expression. Now we're going to just add some rotation to the saucer. It's just, you know, some small rotation, doesn't have to be crazy. And then what I'll do is ease those keyframes as well and sort of see what it looks like. I'll add rotation keyframes. It comes in, the saucer comes in, sort of floats, and then flies off like so. So in the original animation, there's like a little shine that goes across, it runs across the saucer when it flies in, and then also when it prepares to sort of blast off away. And the way I do that is by duplicating the saucer layer. And then I create a rectangular mask, right? And then I add brightness, the effect brightness and contrast to it. And then I keyframe the mask to start on the left side and then move over to the right side. So basically it's showing only that specific portion of the saucer with only the brightness and contrast effect on it. And then that's how I get the whole shining effect. I then add like some mask feather to it to sort of soften the shine on the element, and then I duplicate the mask quite a few times here, so it sort of comes in, it's sort of like alive and active and all that, and then as it sort of anticipates its blast off or whatever, I make the mask, you know, run across the UFO or saucer quite rapidly, and that's how I created the whole shining effect. It's pretty cool. I'm sure there's other ways to do it, but it's the way I do it, and it's the way I've been doing it for a while, and it turns out pretty nice. So the shadow is pretty dark. So basically what I do is I parent the shadow to the saucer, and then I turn down the opacity on the shadow just because it's super harsh, and then I add some blur to the shadow so it's a lot softer and not so harsh on the eyes. And since it's already parented to the saucer, I don't have to worry about animating it separately or anything. So now it's time to add the thruster animation, so the flyer that's underneath the engine. And the way I do that is by using Video Copilot's saber effect. It's free. It's originally made for like lightsabers, but you can also do a lot of other effects with it. That link is in the description as well. And let me show you here how I do it. So I add the saber effect to the black solid, and then I turn the preset to fire mode, and then I create a mask here, just a simple line right underneath the engine, and then I will go into the settings here and sort of expand, mess with the settings to make that thruster a lot thicker. So once I've sort of have the thruster sort of all figured out, I'll then parent that thruster to the saucer, and then as the saucer sort of comes in, all I have to do is animate the points of the mask, and that will control essentially the entire thruster animation, sort of trying to give it some life. Like it sort of there's a lot of fire at one point, and then there's a little fire at one point, and then especially when it blasts off, I'm making it grow super large, as well as with turning up the brightness on it, the core size. That way it's sort of like that way it just sort of like explodes, just like how it's taking off. And yeah, that's the thruster animation portion. So now it's time to add in the fog elements to the scene. I do that by I have some royalty-free fog footage on a black background or a transparent background. So this was actually pretty easy. I quite literally just drag it on top of the scene, and then I duplicate it, and then move it to the middle, adjust the size, add a mask to sort of cover up the harsh line. I will say here though, the lines are pretty harsh. They're more harsh than in the original animation. I probably should have feathered them out a bit more. But yeah, that just gives you an idea of how I went about that part. Alrighty, so lastly, I add a lens flare to the thruster, to the fire, using Video Copilot's optical flares plugin. That does cost money. Google it, it's really cool. But this is my favorite part. I really like adding lens flares to work. I don't really get to do it that often because I'm just animating like flat graphics. But basically all I'm doing here is rotoscoping or just keyframing that flare here to that of the thruster. So as you can see, it sort of follows it. And then I animate the brightness to sort of, get brighter as it zooms off the screen. That way it fades in with the little fade in element I have at the end. But yeah, that's the lens flare. I then turn on motion blur to pretty much all the elements in the composition that move. And adding in this motion blur basically just makes it, it shows blur, which, gives it more of a realistic feel and adds more like speed and motion to the animation, because in real life, things that move fast have some blur to them, especially on camera. So that's basically how I created this animation. That's the basic process that I go through. I just analyze the artwork. I then animate each little object one at a time until it creates the entire animation. So if you have any questions or comments or any feedback, just comment below on this video, and I'll get back with you as soon as I can. Thank you for watching this video. I'll be uploading a lot more videos here now, just showing you my process and creating tutorials and things like that. So if there's anything that you want in particular, just comment below, or you can DM me on Instagram. Again, speaking on Instagram, check out virtual_Sam. He created this artwork. I just animated it. He creates really, really awesome work. If you like videos specifically on my process, I'll probably create a process, like my process video, sort of like my behind the scenes video of animations that I create. So check out that playlist as well. Link is in the description as well, or maybe it'll be on the screen, I don't know. But yeah, other than that, enjoy the rest of your day or night. Peace out.